The Lopez camp is back in the headlines, loud, unapologetic, and swinging wild. During a recent workout session, both Teofimo Lopez Jr. and his father, Teofimo Sr., went off on Terrence "Bud" Crawford. They didn't hold back. In fact, they made Crawford the centerpiece of their rant, calling him out, mocking him, and in Teo Jr.'s case, crossing a line with a racially insensitive remark that's already sparking major backlash. It started like this: Teofimo Jr., the WBO light welterweight champion with a 22-0 record and 13 knockouts, was moving through his routine, cameras rolling, music blaring, adrenaline high. Somewhere in the mix, he started asking repeatedly, "Where's he at?" referring to Crawford. But instead of keeping it professional, he veered into ugly territory, using a racial slur more than once to describe the former undisputed welterweight champ. His father, never one to dial things down, piled on by calling Crawford a B for not agreeing to face his son in the ring. Now, if you've been following Crawford's career, or the business of boxing in general, you know why. Bud hasn't entertained the idea of fighting Teofimo. There's no real money in it. Crawford is staring down a mega payday, reportedly around $100 million, for a blockbuster bout against Canelo Alvarez on September 12th. And should he pull off a win, there's likely another 9-figure check waiting in a rematch. That's the kind of high-stakes action Crawford is after, not a fight with someone who, right now, just doesn't draw the same kind of attention, cash. Teofimo's camp doesn't see it that way. They think Crawford's ducking, plain, and simple. According to them, Bud's just trying to protect his record and bank account, while Lopez is out here chasing greatness. But here's the catch. Teofimo's most recent performance didn't do him any favors in the eyes of the fans or the boxing. Last Friday, he stepped into the ring at an event put together by Turki Al Sheikh in the heart of Times Square. It was flashy in terms of location, sure, but the fight itself? Anything but. Teofimo showcased a new style that felt eerily similar to Shakur Stevenson, defensive, elusive, constantly circling, and almost allergic to risk. It was a performance. Heavy on movement, light on action, not exactly what fight fans pay to see. The verdict? Boring? Plain and simple. Some compared the lackluster outing to Devin Haney's more reserved, safety-first approach. Lopez might have been channeling Shakur, but without the same finesse or rhythm. The punches came in trickles, the taunts felt forced, and the whole thing left the crowd, made up of hand-picked VIPs, unmoved. Judges gave him the unanimous decision win, with scorecards reading 116-112, 116-112, and 118-110. But the fight did little to boost his stock or make the case that he's ready for a Crawford-level showdown. The bigger problem? The crowd wasn't just bored. They were confused. Teofimo's style used to be electric, unpredictable, and full of fire. That guy seemed missing. And if this is the version of Lopez we're going to get going forward, it's hard to imagine fans shelling out pay-per-view dollars to watch him circle the ring and land a few shots per round. In a sport built on spectacle and violence, entertainment is currency, and Teofimo's new approach is bankrupting his marketability. Still, his father isn't backing down. If anything, he's doubling down, louder, brasher, more defiant than ever. "We want boots next," Teofimo Sr. told Fight Hype in a post-fight rant. "We want to be 3-time lineal. Ficus Crawford too. That guy did it at 36, my son did it at 25. He wasn't done. Not even close. Hate him or love him, we're already in the history books, baby. Hall of Fame lock. He could lose 100 fights and it wouldn't matter. He's already a legend. Crawford's just doing what my kid already did at 25. We've still got 12, maybe 14 more years ahead. The sky's the limit, and that Panas Crawford knows it. That's why he's avoiding us." At that point, it felt less like a boxing promo and more like a personal vendetta. Teofimo Jr. chimed in again, repeating his inflammatory language, again crossing lines that just shouldn't be crossed. And that's not bravado. That's carelessness. In a world already full of tension and division, those kinds of words aren't just tasteless, they're damaging. Teofimo Sr. didn't seem concerned. If anything, he ramped things up even further. "I saw Crawford's legs in his last fight. They're gone," he claimed. "He's cashing out. That's all this is. Let him try jabbing with Canelo. He's gonna get laid out just like Amir Khan. Mark my words. You people really think Crawford's beating Canelo? You out of your mind? He's done. That boy's got no legs. Looked like trash against Madrimov. Meanwhile, we made Barboza look like nothing, and he was coming off 3. Big wins. That's the narrative the Lopez camp is pushing. Crawford is on his last legs, a shell of his former self, cashing in before time runs out. And Teofimo? He's just getting started. Young, hungry, and already decorated. But the reality is a lot messier. For For one, Terence Crawford is still at the top of his game. The man who dismantled Errol Spence Jr. and unified the welter division didn't look like someone whose legs were gone. He looked like a fighter in full control, with timing, precision, and the kind of composure that only comes from years of dominance. His fight with Madrimov might not have been his flashiest, but it was another example of why he's considered one of the best in the world, pound for pound. As for Teofimo, the hype is starting to feel hollow. His performance against Jermaine Ortiz earlier this year was uninspired. His latest fight only added more doubts, and while he talks a big game about chasing Crawford or calling out Boots Ennis, the new shark in the welterweight tank, it's unclear if those fights are even realistic at this point. Boots Ennis, for his part, has been eyeing big names too. Undefeated, powerful, and still ascending, he's looking for real tests, and while Teofimo has a name, he hasn't shown the kind of consistent firepower that would make that fight a must-see. And the fact that Lopez Sr. keeps comparing his son to Shakur Stevenson while criticizing other fighters for being boring only adds to the confusion. If they wanted entertainment, why adopt a style that's more about movement than knockouts? Then there's the elephant in the room, pay-per-view potential. Boxing is business. Fighters like Crawford and Canelo draw numbers because they deliver. They excite fans, create storylines, and sell seats. Right now, Teofimo isn't doing it of that. He might have the name recognition, but his last couple of performances haven't lived up to the billing. And while his father might believe they're already Hall of Fame bound, fans and promoters aren't sold, at least not yet. And that's really the crux of the whole saga. Fighter stuck between who he was and who he's trying to become. Teofimo Lopez Jr. used to be one of the most thrilling talents in the sport, a lightning rod with heavy hands and a chip on his shoulder. But somewhere along the line, he traded that raw energy for a safer, more calculated style. It may prolong his career, but it's not going to win hearts or pay-per-view buys. Meanwhile, the tirades from his father might make for great headlines, but they don't mask the reality in the ring. If anything, they put more pressure on Teofimo to perform, and with every fight that ends in disappointment or confusion, the gap between hype and reality grows wider. At the end of the day, calling out names like Crawford and Boots means very little if the performances don't back it up. And right now, Teofimo Lopez Jr. has a long way to go before either of those fights becomes more than just noise. One thing's for sure, the Lopez camp knows how to stir the pot, but in boxing, the talking only gets you so far. Eventually, you've got to deliver in the ring, and unless Teofimo finds a way to bring back the fire that made him a breakout star, he might just find himself on the outside looking in, while the biggest names and the biggest paydays pass him